Hello and welcome to Pro Baseball World Tour right here on RGC Multimedia. Rick Crabb and joining you once again, and joining us also once again is my co-host from his palatial estate in New York, planning on being ambassador to Taiwan as well as plotting revenge against the Tampa Bay Rays, Mr. Eric Marenbach. Eric, how are you doing today, sir?
Well, round one's over. Round two's starting. Got a lot of stuff to go on.
Okay. And we do have a lot to talk about, not only about the playoffs, but unfortunately, we lost two more baseball legends this past week. We'll start off with Mr. Whitey Ford, who passed away this past Thursday at the age of 91. Still holds World Series records for victories as a pitcher. Won 6 World Series with the Yankees, Hall of Famer in 1974. Now, Eric, you and I are close in age, so Mr. Ford might have played maybe just a little bit before your time, but do you have any stories or memories regarding him, maybe from family, or maybe you had a chance to meet him as a kid, get his autograph or something like that? Or
No, really. He definitely pitched before my time. I was born in 64.
Right.
So, as far as seeing him play, I did not. I have seen him in, like, the annual Timers Days at the stadium, where he progressively got worse. I actually, and I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't realize how old he was.
Right.
Passed away at 91. Lived in Queens most of his life. In fact, I think that's where he passed away.
Right. Yeah, he said he was at home. In fact, he was at home watching the recent playoffs last week, when he passed on. But, he said he was with his wife and kids. I have a little story about it right here from the Associated Press. It says, during an era when the Yankees won the World Series so routinely, it was joked that rooting for them was like rooting for General Motors. Their ace pitcher owned the most fitting nickname, the chairman of the board. Whitey Ford, the street-smart New Yorker who had the best winning percentage of any pitcher in the 20th century and helped the Yankees become baseball's perennial champions in the 50s and 60s, died Thursday night. He was 91. The team said Friday the Hall of Famer died at his Long Island home in Lake Success, New York, while watching the Yankees in a playoff game. His wife of 69 years, Joan, and family members were with him. Ford had suffered from the effects of Alzheimer's disease in recent years. His death was the latest this year of a number of baseball greats, including Al Kaline, Tom Seaver, Lou Brock, and Bob Gibson. Franchise long defined by power hitters, Ford was considered its greatest starting pitcher. He posted the most wins in Yankees history and still owns the record for World Series victories. Not big and not overpowering, the wily left-hander played in the majors from 1950 to 1967, all with the Yankees, and teamed with the likes of Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, and Yogi Berra to win 6 championships. Quote, if you were a betting man, and if he was out there pitching for you, you'd figure it was your day, said former teammate and World Series MVP Bobby Richardson told the Associated Press on Friday. Ford won 236 games and just lost 106, a winning percentage of .690. He would help symbolize the almost machine-like efficiency of the Yankees in the mid-20th century, when only twice between Ford's rookie year and 1964 did they fail to make the World Series. Quote, this is one of the guys that's a Mount Rushmore guy in the Yankee organization, said manager Aaron Boone. The blonde-haired Ford was nicknamed Whitey while still in the minor leagues and quickly reached the mound at Yankee Stadium. His death occurred in a month when he, for so long, soared on baseball's high stage, and hours before his former team played Tampa Bay in a decisive Game 5 of the AL Division Series. The Yankees planned a patch for Ford's number 16 on their uniforms. Quote, he would have been the starting pitcher in this game for the Yankees in years past, Richardson said. The World Series record book is crowded with Ford's accomplishments. His string of 33 consecutive scoreless innings from 1960 to 1962 broke a record of 29 2/3 innings set by Babe Ruth. Ford holds records for World Series wins, 10, games and starts, 22, innings pitched, 146, and strikeouts, 94. Quote, I saw him plenty from the other side, said 93-year-old Carl Erskine, whose Brooklyn Dodgers often face the Yankees in October. Quote, too bad for us. Whitey and those guys won most of the games. Yankees reliever Mariano Rivera, the only player unanimously elected in the Hall, set the postseason record for consecutive innings, a majority of them in the AL playoffs. Quote, Whitey earned his status as the ace of some of the most memorable teams in our sports-rich history, said Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred. Beyond the chairman of the board's excellence on the mound, he was a distinguished ambassador for our national pastimes throughout his life. And that's what so many others had to say about Mr. Ford. Obviously, we want to send condolences to his family, his friends, and his fans in New York and beyond. So, rest in peace, Mr. Ford.
I was quite impressed that they were able to put all the numbers on the jersey for Game 5 that quickly. It wasn't necessarily attached. It looked more like iron-on numbers.
Oh, okay.
On the each patch, to be all honest with you.
Well, I mean, granted, it was a last-minute thing, but it was still, it was a great gesture by the team to do that. So, and I'm sure the Yankees, while they were glad to do it, I'm sure in many ways they kind of wish they didn't, obviously. So, but anyway, again, rest in peace, Mr. Ford. We lost another legend, actually earlier this day. Folks, we recorded on the Monday of this week. Joe Morgan, the driving force of the Big Red Machine, also died. He died at the age of 77. Also from the Associated Press. At 5'7", he was the smallest cog in the Big Red Machine. And to his star-powered teammates, Joe Morgan was a driving force too. Morgan, the Hall of Fame second baseman who became the spark plug of the dominant Cincinnati teams in the mid-'70s and prototype for baseball's artificial turf era, has died. He was 77. He died in his home Sunday in Danville, California, family spokesman James Davis said in a statement Monday. Morgan was suffering from a nerve condition, a form of polyneuropathy. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Joe Morgan was quite simply the best baseball player I played against or saw, said Reds Hall of Famer catcher Johnny Bench texted to the Associated Press. Morgan's death marks the latest among Major League Baseball greats this year. As we mentioned, Whitey Ford, also Bob Gibson, Lou Brock, Tom Seaver, and Al Kaline. I think they literally took that from the Whitey Ford byline, but anyway. Quote, all champions, this hurts the most, said Johnny Bench. Morgan was a 2-time National League Most Valuable Player, a 10-time All-Star, and won 5 Gold Gloves. A dynamo known for flapping his left elbow at the plate, Little Joe could hit a home run, steal a base, and disrupt any game with his daring. Most of all, he completed Cincinnati's 2-time World Series championship team, boosting a club featuring the likes of Pete Rose, Tony Perez, and Bench to back-to-back titles. Quote, Joe would always amaze me, Rose said to the AP. He was by far the most intelligent player I've ever been around. He rubbed off on all of us, a big part of the Big Red Machine. Morgan's tie-breaking single with 2 outs in the 9th inning of Game 7 in 1975 gave the Reds the crown in a classic matchup with Boston, and he spurred a 4-game sweep of the Yankees the next season. Morgan was the league's MVP both years, and his Hall of Fame teammates and manager readily acknowledged he was the one that got it all started. Often regarded as the greatest second baseman in history, he was an easy first ballot pick for Cooperstown. Quote, he was just a good major league player when it didn't mean anything, said former Reds and Tigers skipper Sparky Anderson. But when it meant something, he was a Hall of Famer. In a 22-year career through 1984, Morgan scored 1,650 runs, stole 689 bases, hit 268 homers, and batted .271. But those stats hardly reflected the force created on the field by the lefty swinging number 8. Confident and cocky, he was also copied. His habit of flapping his back elbow as a way to keep it high when hitting was imitated by many a little leaguer in Cincinnati and beyond. Health issues had slowed Morgan in recent years. Knee surgery forced him to use a cane when he went onto the field at Great American Ballpark before the 2015 All-Star Game, and he later needed a bone marrow transplant for an illness. In his prime, Morgan helped to revolutionize the game with his quickness and many talents, especially once he hit the turf at Riverfront Stadium. His statue outside Great American Ballpark portrays him in motion naturally. Quote, packed unusual power into his extraordinarily quick 150-pound fireplug frame, he was praised on his Hall of Fame plaque. There was a moment of silence held at Petco Park in San Diego before the Tampa Bay Rays and Houston Astros played Monday in Game 2 of the AL Championship Series. Quote, he meant a lot to us, a lot to me, a lot to baseball, a lot to African Americans around the country. A lot of players that were considered undersized, said Astros manager Dusty Baker, a longtime friend and National League rival. Quote, he was one of the first examples of speed and power for a guy they said was too small to play. Morgan got his start with Houston in 1963 when the team was called the 45s and still played on grass. Once he became a full-time player in 1965 when the club became the Astros and moved into the Astrodome, he began to provide a glimpse of what speedy, multi-skilled players could do on the new kind of turf. The Reds had already built a formidable team, but they came up short in 1970, losing to Baltimore in the World Series. Cincinnati made a shocking trade for Morgan after the 1971 season, giving up slugger Lee May and all-star second baseman Tommy Helms in an 8-player swap. Morgan turned out to be exactly what the Reds needed to take the next step. Quote, Joe made us better and we made him better, Rose said. Quote, we put him in the spotlight and it was a perfect fit. Rose was the dashing singles hitter on his way to becoming the game's career hits leader. Bench supplied the power. Perez was the clutch hitter. And Morgan did a bit of everything, slashing hits and stealing bases whenever needed. Skilled at drawing walks and helped by a small strike zone, Morgan led the National League in on-base percentage in four of his first 5 years with the Reds, and finished with a career mark of .392. Quote, that's when the game went to more speed, Rose once said. There were guys who did more, but Joe stole bases when everyone at the park knew he would. He didn't waste steals. He made them count. Joe probably could have stolen more. Lots of guys would steal to run up the numbers, and then they can't win it counts to win the game. Joe made them count. Morgan scored a major league leading 122 runs in his first season with the Reds, and they reached the 1972 World Series where they lost in 7 games to Oakland. Morgan hit .327 with 17 homers, 94 RBI, and 67 stolen bases in 1975, then followed with a .320 average, 27 homers, 111 RBIs, and 60 steals the next year. He was only the 5th second baseman in the National League to drive in more than 100 runs, and also led the league in both on-base percentage and slugging percentage in 1976. The next year, he led off the All-Star game at Yankee Stadium with a home run against Hall of Famer Jim Palmer. Small in stature like his idol Nellie Fox, Joe played every game at the highest level, maybe proving to himself and everyone else that he did belong. Did he ever? Johnny Bench said. A series of injuries in the late 1970s diminished Morgan's production. The years of throwing his body around on the turf had taken a toll. The Reds had decided to dismantle the Big Red Machine, prompting Morgan to also leave. He spent the 1980 season with Houston, helping the Astros to a National League West title. He played 2 years with San Francisco, hitting a home run on the final day of the 1982 season against the Dodgers to knock the defending champions out of the playoffs, and later was reunited with Rose and Perez in Philadelphia. Morgan hit 2 home runs in the 1983 World Series as the Phillies lost in 5 games to Baltimore and tripled his final at-bat. Morgan finished as a career 182 hitter in 50 postseason games. He played in 11 different series and battled over 273 in just one of them, a stat that surprises many considering his big game reputation. Raised in Oakland, Morgan returned to the Bay Area and played the 1984 season with the Athletics before retiring. Morgan set the NL record for games played at second, ranked among the career leaders in walks, and was an all-star in every one of his years with the Reds. After his playing career, he spent years as an announcer for the Reds, Giants, and A's, along with ESPN, NBC, ABC, and CBS. He was also an analyst for ESPN's Sunday night telecast from 1990 to 2010 and won 2 Sports Emmy Awards as an event analyst. ESPN's first 2 wins in the category in 1998 and 2005. Morgan was also board vice chairman of Baseball's Hall of Fame and on the board of the Baseball Assistants team. Morgan was inducted into Baseball's Hall of Fame in 1990. The Reds also inducted him into their Hall of Fame and retired his number. Quote, "He did it all, and he did it all the time," said Bench, the first member of the Big Red Machine to enter the Hall. Quote again, "Great father and outstanding businessman. He was a friend to so many and respected by all," he said. Morgan recognized his place on one of baseball's all-time greatest teams. Quote, "Bench probably had the most raw ability of any of us," Morgan said before his Hall of Fame induction. Quote, "Pete obviously had the most determination to make himself the player he was. Perez was the unsung hero. I guess I was just a guy who could do a lot of things." He is survived by his wife of 30 years, Teresa, twin daughters Kelly and Ashley, and daughters Lisa and Angela from his first marriage to Gloria Morgan. Funeral details were not set yet. So, once again, we lost another great Eric. Condolences to his fans and his family, and I apologize for the length of that article, Eric. I didn't mean to cut you off. Tell me any thoughts you have about Mr. Morgan.
I gotta tell you, there was something in the article that you read that kind of resonated with me as far as his arrogance and cockiness. Not only on the field, but I actually noticed it in the years that he was broadcasting with Joe Morgan on the ESPN Sunday night games. There was always a chip on his shoulder when it came to comparing any star of the game, because he always felt like his Big Red Machine at the time was the greatest team in all of baseball. And I got to tell you, in the years of when the Yankees won in '98, when they had 114 wins, and then you had Seattle that had 116 wins, you know, everything is like, the Yankees are the greatest team, the Yankees are the greatest team. Whenever you confronted Morgan with that, he would always have some sort of a chip on his shoulder / smart alecky retort as far as that, because he always felt like the Big Red Machine was the biggest greatest team that ever lived. There was nobody like them, I guess, especially since he was on those teams at the time. But that's what I had always found. And my one interaction with him, I don't know, he wasn't very cordial with the fans, and he wound up actually signing my baseball card instead of in Sharpie, in regular ink pen. A little odd.
Yeah.
So, you know, as great of a player as he was, yeah, he did have a major chip on his shoulder when it came to, you know, other people saying that other teams were either on par with the Big Red Machine or better.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, they did have a little bit of a run during the 70s. I will give them that. But, I mean, they also lost a few World Series, too. But still, I mean, they did have a great lineup, though. I mean, Johnny Bench was probably one of my favorite players who was not a Baltimore Oriole of all time. I mean, you might have even remembered Johnny Bench had a toy called a Johnny Bench Batter Up, which was basically like a tee that you nail into the ground and, you know, you would hit like a wiffle ball and supposedly teach you how to bat, but, you know, it didn't didn't help me out. I mean, my major league career was, I don't know, cut short at the ripe age of 11, I guess, when I could barely get a hit in Little League, but but no, I mean...
Why do you think I watched so many games? I lived my baseball playing career vicariously through every other baseball player that is alive today. So.
Oh, yeah, I did too. I mean, you had him, you had George Brett, and then, at home you had like Brooks Robinson and Eddie Murray and Ken Singleton, gentlemen you know very well. They were some of my favorite players in those eras, and I mean, that was even before Cal Ripken was even, before he even started his minor league career, so... And it was interesting. I forgot that the Reds had Lee May because I remember him fondly as an Oriole as well. And and when they mentioned Morgan's batting stance with him raising his elbow, I remember Lee May used to do that a lot. They kind of used to twirl his bat over his head a little bit. It kind of reminded me of that stance a little. But yeah, I got that impression too watching his broadcast. I thought he was a good analyst myself, even though I thought he did have, like you said, a chip on his shoulder, a little edge to him, but I mean, I thought he was still a very knowledgeable announcer and color analyst, and usually that's what I want from whatever sport it is. I mean, for baseball, I always felt like Palmer might have been one of the better ones, as far as someone who you can listen to, not just give the captain obvious as far as what's going on in the field, but he can actually give you the behind the scenes as far as in Palmer's case, he can tell you what pitches. Like he would use in situations and what he thinks the pitcher on the field is doing and how he thought, batters could combat those pitches and that kind of thing. I mean, he actually taught you the game. And it's like analysts like him. For football, I think Tony Romo's very good at that for his sport. I mean, that's kind of what you want for an analyst. And plus, I'm a little biased because Morgan did work with John Miller, and I was sad to see him leave as an announcer for the Orioles, and then going on to the Giants and to ESPN. But yeah, I mean Morgan. As far as seeing him, since I've seen a lot more American League than National League. I remember Morgan. Well, he did play for the Reds. I remember more as a Philly. I remember seeing him in the '83 World Series that we mentioned, but I mean. That was a stacked lineup too. I'm surprised the Orioles did as well as they did against that team because, I mean, that Phillies '83 team was an all-star team right there as far as I'm concerned. So, but regardless, once again, condolences to Mr. Morgan's family, friends, fans throughout baseball, and throughout who watched him on TV. Rest in peace, and thanks for signing Eric's card, I guess, but. Yeah, so, so we lost another great one, I guess, Eric, so, yeah, COVID, I don't know, this year we're losing too many people this year, Eric, especially legendary people in our sport, and, I don't know, hopefully, 2021 can't come soon enough, that's all I'm going to say.
I definitely can say that, especially with me being able to attend games.
Right.
That's why I totally agree. 2021 can't come soon enough, and hopefully everybody will start getting their act together as far as a plan to make that happen.
Yeah, and there's a story later on where one country, it seems like they are getting their act together. I'll read about that later on. Other news in North America, we have the MLB playoffs rolling on. We have the championship series of each league going on. And right now, we're looking at the teams that have advanced. We have the Tampa Bay Rays advancing against Yankees, and the Astros advancing against the Oakland Athletics. And they're meeting each other in the ALCS. Tampa Bay had won the first game of that series already. As I'm looking at it right now, Tampa is also leading Houston at 4-1. It looks like it's at I'm guessing it's the top of the ninth for that, And And also we have the Atlanta Braves facing off against the Dodgers, which will be 8 o'clock our time as we're recording this Monday. So it'll be Game 1 of the NLCS, and then Game 2 looks like it's about to wrap up of the ALCS. One thing I want to comment about those series, Eric, and this is a trend that I did not like, to be honest with you. I mean, you had a few teams just... As much as you and I talk about the Pacific countries and their teams and about how sportsmanlike they are and how genuine they are, and respectful they are to the other teams, I saw a lot of disrespect out of the major league teams. I mean, for example, there was the game, I think it was the second to last game in the Dodgers-Padres series, where San Diego came close to hitting a walk-off home run to win the game, and the center fielder for Los Angeles made an outstanding catch. And the pitcher, okay, I can understand he celebrated a little bit, but he was just going crazy with it. I mean, he was just to the point where he was taunting the Padres, and Manny Machado almost even got into a dust-up with him about it. It was, you had that going on, and then Tampa Bay and the Yankees. All right, Tampa, congratulations, you won. But do you really have to troll the Yankees and play New York, New York? I mean, there's so many instances of that in sports, Eric. I mean, to me, that reminds me of like when Terrell Owens was like dancing on the star in Dallas to disrespect the Cowboys. I mean, you don't have to do that. You can just win and, just celebrate. You're going to the ALCS, just put Polly on the locker rooms in San Diego and celebrate and get ready. You don't have to go through all of that, though. I mean, I don't know, Eric. I'm sure you have other feelings especially with the Tampa Yankee series, but on those points, just those points, I mean, what's your take on it? I mean...
All right. I didn't catch that much of the Dodgers-San Diego series. Great catches are respected by both teams. So I didn't see when... Was it Bellinger that made the catch out the center, or was it Betts?
Yeah, it was Bellinger. Yeah, it was Bellinger. I forgot the pitcher, but I remember he was just going overboard with his celebration from what highlights I saw on SportsCenter and what I had read. And, it's like Machado was even yelling at him, to calm down. It's like, but... Yeah,
but you know what? A great catch like that, you gotta celebrate that.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that was literally the difference of the game.
Especially when you rob somebody of a homer.
Right.
Let off a little steam.
Mm-hmm.
The other team don't like it, that's their problem.
Right.
And that's, why I keep saying the exuberance that goes on in stadiums out in Asia and other countries, I love it. And I wish that there would be none of the unwritten rules about excessive celebration and all that other garbage.
Right. I mean,
because
to me, that's one thing. All. But, especially if that... Can you imagine if a game would have been in a Dodger Stadium with fans as opposed to being in Texas without them? I mean, it's... the Dodgers fans would have just went nuts, and understandably so, and you do want to see that. But I agree about the unwritten rules, especially the ones where it's like, okay, your guy bat flipped, so I'm going to beam the next guy, and dumb stuff like that. You don't need that, especially this year. It's
right, and we'll get into the Yankee Tampa series a little bit, being that I'm a New Yorker.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, congratulations to the team like the Braves, where actually they ended the Marlins streak of the amount of times that they were the Marlins were in the playoffs. They had never lost a postseason game or series en route to their championships. So that got busted.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. So, that's interesting.
The one thing that continued, and it's a rather ironic continue was the continuation of the Yankees' postseason futilities. Now, you would say, wait a minute, continuation? They last won a championship in 2009. However, just like the curse of the Babe back in the Red Sox days, where it took them 86 years to win a World Series, and it took the Cubs over 100 years to win their series, there's a very quirky, strange, but interesting fact about the Yankees. And I'm sorry if people will get offended by political comments, but I'm going to lay one in here. With their loss to Tampa Bay, the Yankees' futility under a Republican president now goes to 62 years and counting.
Oh, wow.
If you look at their past championship, and I'm talking anywhere from 2009 to the 90s dynasty that they had, the 70s dynasty that they had, they're all under Democratic leadership, coincidental or not. The last time the Yankees actually won a World Series where a Republican was president was 1958. Oof. So there's a certain futility involved. Yes, it's quirky. Yes, it's political. But to me, it was a statistical fact. Aaron Boone did a lot of poor moves in the 5-game series. It came to beat him right in the butt several times. The passing of Whitey Ford didn't help any. You know, the quickness that they had to actually, you know, put the numbers on the jerseys the night of that 5th game, there obviously wasn't that karma to feed into it. And if you remember, the home run that actually won it for Tampa was a reprise of the same matchup from about a month or so ago, where basically your oldest Chapman buzzed Michael Brosseau in the, around the head area. Didn't hit him, but it caused a major uproar. As a matter of fact, the hearing about any sort of a suspension getting pushed off till next season, but it was more or less political theater that Chapman came up against Brosseau in basically the same situation and hit the game-winning home run off him. Notwithstanding the fact that Chapman was brought in way, way too early, but that's a horse with a different color. You put in your closer nowadays in the 9th inning, you don't put him into the 7th inning. Right. So that was one of several moves that Aaron Boone made with his pitching staff that turned out to bite him in the butt. I don't care about, you know, teams' lack of hitting, but you've got to be able to pitch. Right. Good pitching does kill good hitting. And the only other thing that turned out to be some sort of a factor was Austin Meadows' tying home run in that Game 5. Aaron Judge, in any other ballpark, catches that ball, but the very fact that there's some sort of an overhang of the in the right field area, where a guy of Judge's height, 6'7", actually banged his head up against that overhang covering. Oof. That more or less prevented him from getting his glove up over the wall to easily catch that ball. Any other ballpark, whether it's Yankee Stadium or whatever, he gets that ball no problem, because 6'7" and his reach, it's not a problem.
No.
San Diego, the neutral site basically did him in.
Yeah, that sounds dangerous. I might have to look to see if, I don't know, if that caused, like, any other games, like, with the Padres or whatever. I'm surprised you haven't heard, like, any Dodgers or, like, any other opponents. I mean, that sounds dangerous. I mean, it sounds kind of like a quirk that you hear about, like, in Tampa Bay Stadium, where they have, like, I don't know, they have, like, a superstructure, like, some balls, if they're popped up, they're ruled foul balls or whatever, you know, because they hit, like...
Oh, you mean with the catwalk?
I'm sorry?
You're talking about with the catwalk.
Yeah, exactly. And, I don't know, but, that sounds dangerous, and that sounds, you know... I don't know. If I was the Yankees, I'd actually kind of complain about that, because, I mean, that's, like, kind of like... I don't want to say... I mean, it's not, like, fan interference or anything like that, but, I mean... If it would have been a World Series game against the Padres and that had happened, I mean, that could change a World Series. I mean, that's... Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, but in actuality, you can't really pin that on the stadium itself. You had enough time in that stadium. You got to figure out your surroundings over there. So in a way, you know, Judge misjudged the wall.
Right. Yeah.
It's very weird.
Right.
The way that they lost between the homer by Meadows and then the kind of planned political theater by Brousseau on Chapman.
Right.
But another year, another loss, and I'm not going to go on a political rampage now, but I can only hope that certain situations turn itself around in the next election and or beyond, where the Yankees have a better shot of winning another championship.
Right. Yeah, I mean, from that
tired.
statistic alone, I mean, I'm guessing Yankees fans might be pulling for Biden just so they can get a World Series. But I don't know. I thought that's... Yeah. It's almost like Trump's got like a voodoo doll of Schumer, and he's like, yeah, take that, Schumer. The Yankees ain't gonna... No, I don't know. But I don't know.
I don't that many people know that particular thing. And when I do bring it up, like on message boards and stuff, they're like, stop being political. You know what? It's not necessarily politics, but it's a strange but true fact.
Right. Well, I know in football, the now Washington football team, they have a statistic of... I remember it was... I forget exactly what it was. It was something to the effect of... When they win on a certain date, if they win on a certain date, one party wins. If they lose on a certain date, the other party wins in a presidential election. It was some quirky stat, something like that, though. I mean, that's not favoring one party or the other. That's just a interesting coincidental fact about that sport. You know, that's what this sounds like with the Yankees and the Republicans. But I don't know.
When it gets to be this long,
I'm sorry?
I said, when it gets to be this long a duration, just by my perspective, it starts to be a problem.
Yeah.
People look at me like I've got three heads whenever I bring it up, and say, oh, that's a coincidence. BS.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, my team hasn't won since '83. So, since Joe Morgan played. We just talked about that poor guy, and so it's like I can't blame any presidents. They've been playing. Reagan and both Bushes have had terms. Clinton and Obama's been in, and we got the Trumpster now. So it's like, they're all. The Orioles have been feudal during a lot of those years, and I don't blame them per se. The only president I would blame would be like the president of operations of the Orioles baseball team. That's who I would blame for my team's own woes. But that is an interesting fact, especially since the Yankees. They're known for I mean, they're known for their championships. They have, I mean, I think it's them and the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, they have like the most championships in their leagues in North America. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, Montreal's got 26 cups, Stanley Cups. The Yankees have 27 World Championships.
Right. Yeah, I knew it was in the mid-20s. I forgot how many for the Yankees, but you would know as well as anyone. So, yeah, I mean, that is a weird stat, and I don't know, we'll have plenty to talk about that probably in a few weeks, I'm sure, yeah. All right, Eric, well, do you have anything else to comment about goings on in Major League Baseball or North America before we take our break and expand our world tour, or?
No, I'm just congratulating Tampa for going up 2 games. Looking forward to the Braves and Dodgers. And 12 frenzy goes on.
Okay. And on a side note, I'm going to give a free plug. Hopefully this will turn into a paying plug one of these days, but I want to send a shout out to TeePublic, because the team that I was going to actually jump on the bandwagon for these playoffs were the Buffalo Blue Jays. Those poor guys, you know, because they were based in Toronto, the government of Canada would not allow them to host any home games in their stadium, so they had to shuffle across the border 60 miles over to Buffalo. And Eric, your shirt's on the way. I'm going to try to get it out to you this week. But folks, it's actually a pretty funny shirt, because, I mean, it actually has a mock-up of the Blue Jays logo. The shirt that I got has the Blue Jays logo wearing a mask. And instead of having like the red maple leaf, it's a red COVID cell. And even the back has the font of like a Blue Jays jersey. It says COVID-19. So, I don't know. I thought it was kind of a funny shirt, since Eric, you and I joked about the Blue Jays and their plight, you know, especially since would they be still playing in Toronto? Would they be playing in Pittsburgh? Playing in Baltimore? Would they be playing in Buffalo? Who knew where they were going to play until they finally did? So, anyway, that company, they have some funny shirts, not just the baseball, but other things too. In fact, I think I bought a shirt from them, if I'm not mistaken, Eric. If you remember, Billy Ripken had a baseball card with a next blue written on it. They actually printed a T-shirt. I have a T-shirt with that card on it, you know, and I've worn it to a few Oriole games and a few minor league Bowie Bay Sox games, the Orioles AA affiliate, and I don't know, I got a few last year. Like, oh my God, they actually printed a card of that. So it's like, I'm like, yeah.
But you have to send me that site offline, because I will definitely probably run the market on those shirts too, because there's a site that does a lot of smack talk called Smack Apparel. They're based in Florida. But this kind of company will probably rival them something fierce. So you'll send me that link offline.
Okay, I'll do that. All right. I'll double check. I think I might have sent it already to you in Messenger, but I'll look it up. If I didn't, I'll dig it up again. But yeah, I'll send it to you. I mean, they do have some sports shirts. They're more about like pop culture references, a lot of like old TV shows and stuff like that too. So I mean, even non-sports fans will like that as well. So
yeah, Smack Apparel was basically all sports.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. All right, yeah, send me a link to that site as well. I'll have to check them out. But all right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to move our world tour over to South Korea and the KBO. You're listening to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia YouTube channel. We'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. Rick Crabb, Eric Marenbach. And as promised, we are moving our tour over to our friends in South Korea and the KBO. Few interesting things about the league this week, Eric. One thing I'm sure you read about and will be pleased to hear about if you hadn't already. It looks like our friends in the KBO, after playing in empty stadiums again, looks like they're going to try to open right back up. This story comes from the World Baseball Softball Confederation, where we had, some of the stories about the tournaments in Europe. But they said fans can go back to KBO games ahead of final stretch of the regular season. Government has decided to relax social distancing after COVID-19 infections fell into the double-digit range in the last couple of weeks. The KBO teams have been given the green light to allow spectators into the stadium starting this week as the race toward the playoffs heats up. The Korean government decided to lower the level of social distancing nationwide. The relaxation allows clubs to fill the ballparks up to 30% of capacity as long as they comply with anti-COVID-19 guidelines. The decision came after daily infections fell into the double-digit range in the past 2 weeks. KBO clubs from late July to mid-August were given temporary approval to welcome fans to the stadium with a limit of 25% maximum capacity before the government reversed its decision and ordered stadiums to be once again closed to the public. And even Korea's Prime Minister Chung Si-hyun told the local press that the government will maintain control on risk activities such as door-to-door sales. Wow, okay, I didn't even think places still did that. I mean, it kind of died off a little bit here, but anyway, good for our friends for the KBO. I mean, it's fun monitoring. I mean, you've seen, with your enthusiasm for the CPBL and seeing games there in Japan and the few games that we did see for the KBO with fans in them. I mean, it's good to see. It does always add something to the atmosphere when you can have people cheering on and watching it.
Right. And I don't know if they plan on doing what they originally implemented when Korea started letting fans in. If you remember a while back when they were going to start, they said, okay, fine, well and good, you guys can enter the ballpark at, your minimums, your maximums, whatever, but you pretty much had to sit on your hands.
Right.
I mean, okay, masks were required, social distancing, yeah, but you couldn't necessarily, yell, scream, and do all the stuff that the Asians are known to do with their loud chants, especially for the home team, and, the songs and the dances and whatever. Right. You pretty much had to stay put.
Yeah, I mean, they say that, but, I mean, sometimes they ease up on those things, too. But, I mean, I think the main thing that they have to work on is the social distancing. I mean, spacing the fans apart, I guess, like every seat or every other 2 seats or something like that. The cheers, yeah, I can understand that, too. I mean, as far as, because, I mean, the vocals, I mean, that's spreading that can spread the virus, too. I mean, you have a lot of that in KBO and all that, but I don't know. We'll see how that happens. Hopefully they can maintain allowing fans to come to the stands, especially with the playoffs rolling around. And that's yeah. And speaking of which, I'm going to go to the standings of the KBO, and what a mosh pit that league has been. It is amazing. Now, last week at this time, Eric, the 5th spot was occupied by the LG Twins. But then you had a few things going on with that. You had the Twins winning their last 5 ball games, including a 3-game sweep of the Dinos, and you've had a few things going on. You and I have commented about teams like the Wyverns and the Eagles being spoilers. The Hanwha Eagles won 4 out of 5 of their games, including a win against Kia on the 6th and on the 7th, as well as beating Kiwoom on the 8th and the 10th. So, Kiwoom, I had said a few times, Eric, I thought they would be the team to actually pass the Dinos. It looked like they were on a roll, and now they've faded down to fourth. And it's crazy. Meanwhile, the Twins, with their surge, and all of a sudden, they're in second place right now. So I'm going to go through the standings right now. The Dinos, even though they were swept by the Twins, they're still holding the top spot at 77, 49, and 4. The Twins are in the second place spot at 74, 56, and 3. The Wiz, not far behind at 73, 56, and 1. The Kiwoom Heroes at 75, 60, and 1. The Doosan Bears still holding on in the top 5 at 70, 57, and 4. Two teams looking out on the outside, but still looks like they may have a chance, although they might be fading a little bit away from Doosan. That would be Kia at 66, 62, and 0. Lotte at 65, 62, and 1. Then you have the Samsung Lions at 57, 71, and 3. The SK Wyverns at 45, 86, and 1. And the Hanwha Eagles at 43, 86, and 2. And those are our standings for the KBO. Eric, do you have any comments about what's going on with that league?
The good thing is, as late as Korea started, their games, they've got plenty of games left. They're going until the end of October. So as maddening as the top 5 spots are, you've still got a couple of weeks to go to settle this thing.
Oh, sure. And we've given them plenty of credit throughout this show, Eric, but I'll heap on some more. One thing the KBO has done, their COVID protocols have worked. They've had, really the only thing that's caused them to miss games were rainouts, which is normal for any baseball in any country, but we haven't had any problems with COVID. We've had maybe like one or two players, in the future leagues. I think we had one for the Hanwha Eagles future leagues team, I think, on it. But other than that, we haven't had any stoppages. We haven't had any delays. We've just had the usual circumstances of foreign players having to quarantine for 2 weeks and that kind of thing. But, that was they knew that when they took the gig. That was basically what KBO said at the start of the season that players would have to do. So, but I give them a lot of credit for getting all their games in, as opposed to Major League Baseball here, where we had the Corona Fish and the Corona Cardinals and the other Corona teams, basically testing positive, and teams had to reroute from Philadelphia to Baltimore to New York to Atlanta or wherever. It was crazy, especially at the beginning of the MLB season. But KBO, they've hung tough. Their government has kept on top of things, and good for them. So
Asia as a whole has mitigated it well. You hear me rave from week to week about Taiwan, about their basically eradicating the virus to the point where if you have maybe 500 total deaths within the country, whether you call it an island or not, that's pretty damn good.
Right.
And they have had no stoppages. They've had no players test positive. They've expanded their audience from initially it was 1,000 to 2,000. Over the weekend, you had a couple of games where in Taichung, where the Elephants play, you had over 10,000 fans in the stands.
Oh, no kidding.
And it only gets better during playoff time. The stadium fills, and that's a good 22, 25,000 people. So it's a great thing, and I'm so pissed that I can't see it.
Right.
But it is.
Yeah, I'm pissed that we can't see any of these games. It's like, here in America with the MLB in it, or the minor leagues that maybe, I don't know, what we spoke about a little bit last week hopefully won't be a thing of the past, but we'll see what happens there. And then also with these Asian countries that, I've been wanting to go to Japan for a while. Seeing KBO on ESPN, want to go there. Then talking to you about Taiwan, I want to go there too. Good God. I mean, I'm going to have a suitcase. I can see this after going to these games, hopefully. It'll be like you used to see, like, back in the cartoons where they would have, like, I don't know, stickers from all different cities and countries from the different airports. I'm going to have that looking like that. And, probably have, like, caps and shirts, and pennants and everything else from baseball teams all over the world now. I can see this happening. But
it's like the minor leagues tried to do, and I think majors tried to do it also, where they had pretty much passports, where every time you went into a different stadium, you got a sticker, and you put it in your little facsimile passport book to let people know how many stadiums you've actually been to. It's a great thing.
Right.
Really.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. I mean, I remember seeing a MasterCard commercial where they had, like, these two kids. They were going to different ballparks all over the country, and part of it was in Camden Yards, where it's like every stadium they would go to, they would buy, like, a hat and a jersey of their team. It's like, God, they must have, like, they must have, like, the super platinum MasterCard to be able to afford all that. I don't know, Eric, but looked like they were having fun in the commercial, but, it is a commercial, it's TV. What do you expect? But,
Or they probably got sponsored, and maybe the trips aren't as expensive as people think. I mean,
yeah. And it could be true as well. Okay. All right, Eric, do you have any other comments about our friends in Korea, or before we take another break, or?
Nope. I'm just marching on.
Okay, sounds good. All right, folks, we're going to take another quick break, and when we return, we're going to move our world tour over to Taiwan, and Eric will expand on his knowledge and enthusiasm of the CPBL. You're listening to Pro Baseball World Tour on RGC Multimedia YouTube channel. We'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. Rick Crabb, Eric Marenbach, and as promised, we move to our friends in Taiwan, and Eric is going to give us even more knowledge of the CPBL. Okay. All right, Eric, what happened to your friends over in Taiwan this week?
Son of the bitches, we're back in a dead tie. Wuhan couldn't hang on to their slim 1 or 2 game lead, where they had confrontations within each other, and then the matchups where you had Fubon against either Brother or Rakuten and the Lions, they were either winning together or losing together. So Fubon blew their 1 game lead and were deadlocked again. And going into the last week of the season, actually the season shoulda, coulda, woulda ended over the weekend. But as is with most of the other foreign leagues, they will tack on their rainouts, makeup games right at the end. So we have games up until Friday.
Oh, good.
To determine the second half.
All right. Well.
Okay. It's going to be down to the wire.
Yeah.
And the one thing one of the many things that I love about Taiwan, when a team clinches their either first or second half, or at the end of the Taiwan series, the fans will basically throw streamers into the air. So and depending on the team color, you have your basic sea of blue, of yellow, of orange. It's just a it's an awesome sight to see. I mean, it's almost like fireworks, but like airborne paper.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like a lot of wrestling matches in Japan have that. But it kind of also sounds like, too, when teams here win championships, they have that, they basically shoot the confetti throughout the stadium or whatever. It kind of sounds similar to that, except the fans get to do it instead of the, I don't know, someone in the field crew. So that's pretty cool.
Right. Every fan gets their own little roll of kind of like a crepe paper kind of thing. And as soon as the last out is recorded, it's like you just fling them, and it looks so pretty. It's absolutely beautiful.
Very cool. Although, I'll be honest, if I go to a game with you and they do that, I might be tempted to keep mine for some reason. Maybe get some players to sign it or something. I don't know. But
what I do is I get 2 rolls, and I will sneak one for myself and, throw the other one.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah. Eric, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, no, I thought you cut out for a little bit. Okay.
No, I was saying, I normally take 2 rolls, one to keep for myself and the other to chuck.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, well, let's go to the standings of the CPBL and see whose fans will get to throw the confetti. It's a toss-up, as you mentioned. We have a tie at first place, pretty much. We have Fubon, who's 29-25-0. Uni Lions at 29-25-1. The China Trust Brother Elephants at 26-27-1. And the Rakuten Monkeys at 24-31-0. So those are our standings for the second stage of the CPBL. All right, Eric. All right, you have any further comments about it? And I want to apologize. They're not just your friends; they're our friends at Taiwan. So I apologize for that little one of many verbal gaffes in this episode. My goodness, I'm gonna have a lot of editing to do.
Not a problem. Not a problem. I can do it.
Okay, I'm glad. That's why you stick with me all through this time, and I do appreciate you for that. All right, do you have anything further about the CPBL you want to mention, or?
And I'm just looking at the remaining schedule. I made a little boo-boo. There's makeup games up until the 22nd, so we've still got this weekend next before the start of the Taiwan series, which would be on Friday the 24th.
Oh, okay. No kidding. Okay. Well, definitely look forward to that. Definitely looking forward to hearing your expertise and commentary regarding that league and that series, because I know you'll be following it close as you have throughout the whole season, and I'm sure you've had for several seasons for the CPBL, so definitely looking forward to that. All right. Okay, folks, we're going to take our final break, and then when we return, we're going to talk about the NPB, our friends in Japan, as well as some news about some other leagues that will be starting up, some winter leagues, if you will. You're listening to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia YouTube channel. We'll be right back. Alright, folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. Rick Crabb, Eric Marenbach. And as promised, we are moving our world tour now over to Japan and to the good folks of the NPB and their fans. I saw one story about that league that was interesting, especially since you and I were talking about the Cuban leagues and how a lot of their players go over to Japan to play in the NPB. I have a story about one player who actually went to Japan. After playing in Japan, he actually made an equipment donation to his team in Cuba. Let me get to that. It is from a Cuban site called Cuba Debate. And the headline reads, Moniello sends sports equipment to his team in Pinar del Rio. Basically, what it says, the stellar Pinar del Rio pitcher Livan Moniello, a member of the Japanese SoftBank Hawks, they call them the Halcones, but SoftBank Hawks, made a donation of sports equipment to the cast of Figueros de Pinar del Rio, and I apologize for slaughtering that pronunciation. From Japan and paid with his salary as a player in one of the teams of the professional league of that nation, the shipment is made up of bats, balls, mascots, leagues, belts for pitchers, among others, valued at about $5,000. That's very cheap, actually, for a mascot. I'm guessing it's like costumes for the mascots. I don't know. But anyway, says Alexander Urgoya, director of the back-to-back team, explained that the ACN that before leaving this season for the so-called land of the rising sun, Moniello expressed his desire to contribute to the Figueros, a roster to which the left-hander belongs, and inquired into the main needs of the team. This donation will help a lot of prepare for the team, especially taking into account the situation in the country at the moment, he said. We spoke to Moniello this morning and thanked him as he expressed his desire to join the Pinar del Rio team, the mentor stressed. Livan Moniello, 24 years old and a native of Pinar del Rio municipality, debuted in 2017 on the Japanese circuit, with which he had been crowned on 3 consecutive occasions. Since 2013, he had been on the roster of Pinar del Rio Punta Verdes, together with whom he was champion of in the L3 or LII National Series and in the Caribbean Series of San Juan, Puerto Rico in 2015. So good for him. You know, it's always good to hear a player, any league, going back to their community and giving back to them. And in this case, he's giving back to his former team, his home team, and team he'll probably be playing again when the NPB season wraps up. So that's a good, heartwarming story. What do you think of that, Eric?
I've known Moinello for years, and I'm sure that not only is he putting in the donation for Pinar del Rio, but this Alfredo Despine, who is also on the SoftBank Hawks, I'm sure he has a part in it also that they didn't, and they're teammates on SoftBank.
Oh, okay.
So kudos to them. They are both hell of nice guys. As a matter of fact, I go visit Despine when he comes to Miami, usually sometime during the winter around Christmas time.
Oh, no kidding.
And they're both tremendous individuals. I've seen them in Taiwan during international tournaments. I've seen them when the Cubans do their barnstorming tours of the U.S. during the Can-Am League seasons. Classy move.
Okay, good. Yeah, good for him. Good. Absolutely good for him, and good for the Hawks for helping with that as well. So, all right. Well, let's go to the standings of the NPB. We will start in the Central Division. The Yomiuri Giants at 60-32-4. The Hanshin Tigers at 47-44-5. The Chunichi Dragons at 46-46-5. The Yokohama Bay Stars at 45-48-5. The Hiroshima Carp at 39-48-9. The Yakut Swallows at 35-54-6. Moving on to the Pacific Division, the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks we just mentioned at 54-39-5. The Chiba Lotte Marines at 53-42-2. The Rakuten Golden Eagles at 47-46-4. The Saibu Lions at 45-47-2. The Nippon Ham Fighters at 43-51-4. And the Oryx Buffaloes at 37-54-5. And those are our standings for the NPB. Eric, do you have any comments about our friends in the NPB and in Japan?
No, not really. I mean, been focused so much on the CPBL, I didn't even get a chance to watch that many games from any other country.
Right. And yeah, it's tough. It's been a lot. I mean, there's been a lot of baseball going on between then and then plus with the Major League playoffs going on. It's a good time for a baseball fan for, as far as having games to watch and that kind of thing. So that's a good thing. Speaking of which, I have a post. As I mentioned earlier, we have news about other leagues starting up. This is coming from the Baseball Pacific International Facebook group that you and I belong to, and I think this gentleman's a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Robert Kiyoshi Shadlow. He made a post regarding leagues that are opening up. Most winter leagues, most of them looks like in Central and South America, as well as our friends in Australia. So we have, let's see, let me get to the translation because we have it in Spanish, bear with me. Okay, we have opening days confirmed according to Robert. October 15th, the Mexican Arco Pacific League is supposed to open up. November 6th, the Nicaragua National Baseball League. November 15th, 3 days before my birthday, the Dominican Republic Professional Baseball League starting up. December 18th, happy holidays and beginning of baseball for the Australian Baseball League. Now, I think this might be a typo. I think this may be December 12th. It says YEP, but I think it's supposed to be December. Looks like you have the Cuban National Baseball Series. You might know more about that, Eric, than I. But we also have tentatively scheduled for November 20th through the 25th, the Liga Colombiana de Baseball Profesional. Looks like the Colombian Baseball League. We starting between 20th and 25th. They're still trying to work that out. The Puerto Rico Roberto Clemente Professional Baseball League is working to open. No set date for that yet. Same is true for the Panama Professional Baseball League. They have not set a date. And the Liga Venezuela de Baseball Profesional faces economic, social, and political obstacles in addition to COVID-19. Possible start on either November 15th through the 20th. So we have some. We've been talking on a few episodes, Eric, about some countries starting their winter leagues, and those are some of the dates that some of them are starting up. I know, Eric. I think you mentioned in other episodes. You traveled to Mexico leagues or some of these other leagues yourself, or?
I've done Mexico winter leagues around the Christmas and New Year's holidays. Their season gets underway on Thursday. It's more on the Pacific side where there's a bunch of regions that play winter ball. Former Major Leaguer Adrian Gonzalez still plays there every once in a while. But you've got a lot of former Major Leaguers on there. You've got minor leaguers that go over there to hone their skills, especially now this year with there being no Arizona League.
Right.
Every other league's getting pushed up, so you'll have a lot more foreigners joining Mexico at first, since their season will start on Thursday.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. And I don't know, we'll definitely be reporting on them as far as, when those leagues start up, and I'm sure we'll be finding places to watch them online, and we'll pass them on to you folks, when we do as well. And I've been half joking with you about planning trips to going to some of these leagues in other countries. I mean, especially since, I don't know, it seems like the Taiwan League is kind of like close to my birthday, late October, early November. Australia might be nice since, their weather is the opposite of ours. That's their summer season, so, go down during, the Christmas holiday or whatever. Go see some Australian ball. That might be cool to do as well. And, I don't know, Mexico, I've been to Cancun. It's a shame that Cancun's losing team, because had I known that when I went with my father back in the day, I probably would have been pestering him to go to some ball games down there. But, he wasn't up for it, though. But, It was bad enough I was bugging him about soccer when the World Cup was playing that year, but you know, he's like, kid, enough's enough. We're in Mexico. Come on, man. You got a beach, you got Mayan ruins. Come on, just enjoy what you got, you know. And looking back, I agree. Sorry, Dad, but anyway. But,
plus the Mexicans in that region, they don't even know where the stadium is.
right. Yeah, I remember you saying that last week. You said the cab driver didn't even know. And cab drivers, I mean, they're like London cab drivers. They know every little nook and cranny in every street and every shortcut.
Right, and I was even looking for, like, souvenir shops to, you know, to buy stuff, even if I couldn't get into the stadium. And they were all looking at me like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, soccer, if anything, is king over there.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But that's it.
Oh, yeah, and I think I may have told you on or off the air, it's like when I went to Cancun and they had the World Cup, the Soviet Union was still in existence, and they had a team in that tournament, and I actually saw T-shirts with the hammer and the sickle, you know, kind of looked like almost like their jerseys. I wanted to buy one, and my dad wouldn't let me, because he's like, nah, you ain't buying any communist T-shirts. Like, Dad, come on, they're just playing soccer. They're not trying to conquer Mexico. No. I'm like, okay. It's like, yeah.
No, but I look forward to Thursday's opening day. The one early game is at 6 o'clock Eastern time. The Jalisco Charros against the Sultanes de Monterrey. Everything else starts later on, where it gets to be a little sticky as far as, you know, trying to stay up for these games, because they won't start until like 10 o'clock at night our time.
Yeah.
So I'll stay up for a little while, watch a little bit, depending on, you know, who's on whatever roster. But
right.
I just look forward to another league so I can watch more ball.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And, I mean, I'm actually kind of looking forward to winter just to see how our show progresses with it. I'm sure we'll be talking about these winter leagues, and I don't know, we'll probably rename the show temporarily for, we'll call it Pro Baseball World Tour Hot Stove, you know, and, you know, just be talking about just the hot stove news in our leagues, and also, you know, the live baseball going on in the winter league. So, especially, I don't know, I'm kind of looking forward to that Australian league. I want to see how Manny Fernandez does down there, but I have a feeling this be just, you know, he'll be there to like sell a few T-shirts and a few Manny wigs like he has in other cities he's played in, you know, that kind of stuff. But I don't know.
Yeah, if the Ramirez show is anything like it was in Taiwan, they will embrace him. Sorry to say, exploit the shit out of him with merchandising, but it's all good.
Right. I don't think he'll be sorry, because he'll probably get a cut of that, and two, he likes the attention anyway, so, you know, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's as much of a media whore as I am.
Well, but you're bigger in Taiwan than he is, so there you go. So, take that.
There you go. There you go.
All right, folks. Well, listen, we're gonna wrap things up rather for this episode of Pro Baseball World Tour. Eric, do you have any comments about any of our leagues in any of our countries that we've been speaking about, or maybe even some other ones we haven't covered tonight?
Ooh. Right off the top of my head, no.
No. Okay.
I just keep watching them as they go along.
Right.
And if anything, you know, like striking pops up, I'll like make a mental note and hopefully remember it for a week later.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. Well, all right, folks. Thank you once again for listening to us. As far as everything with this COVID, I think I'm going to end the show, I think, every week with this. Baseball is all about getting home safe, so hopefully many of you will keep doing that. And without further ado, we'll bring on the NC Dino cheerleaders. They might need a hug after getting swept by the LG Twins. Sorry, ladies, but thanks for dancing at the beginning and the end of our show. And thank you for listening and watching. We'll talk to you next week.